The fourth of 2023's 12 Beers of Christmas is an epic homebrew modeled after the mega 14% ABV doppelbock Samichlaus. Members of the St. Paul Homebrewers Club and I recently brewed about 15 gallons of the beer with help from Northern Brewer and Imperial Yeast. You're about to hear all about it as we recap the brew day just moments after knocking out into the fermenters. All of Chop and Brew's 12 Beers of Christmas videos are made possible with support from Imperial Yeast. In this case, they propped up a special strain L49 Frosty just for this homebrew project. And also our Patreon party people. Join them in showing some love at patreon.com/chopandbrew. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Another 12 Beer of Christmas 2023, but this isn't a beer past or present, it's a beer future, because we just brewed the most epic brew, Samichlaus. Y'all know that I like it a lot. We've talked about it a lot. I've tried to brew it. I don't think I've done it the justice that we just did here. This is Garrick, Ross, Art. Y'all, we just brewed a big old Samichlaus. Tell me something about it. First of all, we didn't just brew like 3 or 5 gallons.
No. We planned for a pre-boil gravity of 15 and a half, almost 16 gallons, which meant 64 pounds of grain, 64 and a half, because we got to get the carafe in there.
Yeah,
I need the color. But other than that, it all went real smooth. We got really excited.
Yeah. We should say they're all part of St. Paul Homebrewers Club. They brought their big brew system, which is a 25, 30 gallon mash tun.
Let's say usually it's 20 gallons.
Okay.
So the whole idea is set up the system, 20 gallons, get 4 friends, split it 4 ways, and you get more help in the cleaning. And it takes about as long as a regular 5-gallon brew day. A little bit longer, but not much.
So that's fun. That big system got set up here at Northern Brewer HQ. We were inspired originally by the Falconclaws recipe from Drew Beecham and his club, the Maltose Falcons. It's like a 1143 starting gravity. Drew is in the years since this come out with a more simplified version. The grist is way more simple, Pils, Munich, Carafa. Therefore, the OG could be more like 1120. Either way, we're shooting way higher than like 1115, 1120. So it's a massive amount of malt. 14% alcohol is what Samichlaus, the beer we're inspired by, is, and we really wanted to hit that number. To help us get there, Imperial Yeast propped up a strain that has never been commercially available. It's called L49 Frosty. It's essentially their Zurich lager strain, because they were that excited to see if we could turn out a big old beer. Will that yeast do what it's supposed to do? Ferment it. Talk about the numbers. What did we end up with?
Well, it got sketchy for a while. Our pre-boil gravity on the primary beer was what? 1090? 1090.
So we ended up with a lot of wort.
A lot of wort. And we were like, how are we going to get to 1130, even approach that? So we panicked.
And some of us panicked.
I panicked. And we pulled off another 9 gallons for a second beer, thinking that we could get that up,
right,
to like just boil it down, to concentrate it, to add it back in afterwards.
We wanted to achieve this with all malt if possible, but yes, we had DME on standby should we need it. We had candy syrup. In the end, there were these 2 giant brew kettles going. These guys are running like all these numbers with the math, like, okay, if that keeps going at this and this keeps going at this. In the end, we ended up with like 11 gallons of 1134.
Yeah, 11 and a half
crazy
gallons.
Crazy to even say out loud.
Yeah.
And still another 5 gallons at 1025 or 1125.
Yeah.
And then I brewed a beer with 2.5 gallons that we pulled out. So I ended up with a 1053 beer. Pitch some German lager yeast into it just for the heck of it. Why not? But yeah, I would say we achieved our goal.
Yes.
And it's almost kind of like the cup runneth over. It was just like...
It was the mash that kept on giving.
It did.
Didn't we overachieve?
Yeah. Well, we always overachieve.
And I think that's the lesson here is if you've got 64 pounds of grain, it will just keep on giving.
Yeah.
We didn't even do a second running. All of this was first run-ins.
Right, except my beer, the little baby beer that we did. But like everyone at Imperial and Drew Beecham themselves all kind of cautioned us about this and that and low extract and low efficiency. And it just seems like whether beginner's luck or whatever, like none of that seemed to happen. Granted, we mashed a little lower. We were in the upper 140s, kind of 150, kissing it a little bit versus what one of the recipes would have said as high as 154. Granted, so yes, we have high gravity wort in carboys, but is it going to make a 14% beer? Ross is going to do all the cellarman work on this one. Let's talk about from here to the next, say, like week. What's up? What's the plan?
Okay, I think the plan is we got to keep our fermentation temperature, even. So we're gonna cool it down to about 50, and then again, all that Imperial yeast that Imperial sent us is just awesome. We need a huge cell count. So we got 3 jugs, like small jugs of yeast, and that's going in 3 gallons. And it's a crazy amount of yeast, but for a
3 gallons. Like there's a jug for each.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we got 3 gallon batches at 11:24, and so
11:34. You're taking the 11:34.
Yeah, my bad.
Then we'll oxygenate at pitch.
Yep.
They suggested oxygenating again at 12 hours, and then a rare move. Adam McClure at Imperial even suggest a 3rd burst. I'll make sure I get that number with him, but I think it's still another maybe 12. So these are all tricks that we're going to try, other than the fact that this yeast is just a beast. It's non-diastatic or it is diastatic? I get confused. Which one means it will go? What is Saison yeast? Diastatic. Okay. This yeast is also that. So it wants to go after it, and if we give it all the nudges that it needs, we should get to it.
And we're expecting a FG of what? 1010? 1015?
I think the simplified one is like 1017.
That's still fine.
Which sounds really low, considering. I mean, it sounds high, but like consider a pastry stout that can be like 1030. Granted, this isn't a pastry stout. This is supposed to be a really clean.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say balanced so much, but a clean, nice lager. The legend has it, the brewery that makes this brews it every December 6th, Samichlaus, St. Nicholas Day, lager in a full year, release it the next. So our rough estimate is we're going to try to lager it for quite a long time, at least in the next fall. So we won't drink it for quite a while. And I left the commercial example for sharing at home on accident. So we're drinking Garrick's beer to the brew day.
It's all good.
What about you, Art?
I was just happy to be a part of it, and I'm glad that all the numbers that we hit and the process that we used was solid. Just using good common sense brewing.
Yeah, that was a cool part of just watching you guys. You know your system, so you were able to kind of really juggle, equalize, move things kind of around. Thank God you have a pump with like 2 channels. I don't know if that's what you call them, but it seemed like there was like pumps happening in 2 different things some of the times. It's just like water's going over there, words recirculate. I was like, man, this is cool to see.
And I think having so many options at our disposal, saying if we don't hit our numbers, what are our options? What are the ways that we can still likely get our numbers? And just being able to have both the experience with the system and having the ingredients on hand to be able to say, okay, at what point do we need to make a decision on do we add sugar? Do we boil longer? And what do we do? And in the end, the recipe did what it was supposed to do. Hour and a half long boil, and it hit the number. Boom. It was right there.
I think part of that was like it's Minnesota, it's winter, the air is really dry and thirsty, and so we were really able to boil off a lot of water.
Yeah.
And so I think that was key.
100% agree.
And it snowed. It's snowing right now. It snowed like 4 times. It's been like weird bursts of snow.
We've been causing the snow with this giant brew day.
Our steam as it exits Northern Brewer, rushes, falls down, meets with the like Phil Connors at this atmosphere, and then becomes this white stuff we call snow. All right, so that's our Samichlaus Brew Day wrap. Way more cool to be a part of this than some of the other ones when I've done it and just like had to like do every silly sugar addition and Granted, we haven't gotten to fermentation yet, but I've had ones where I've had to pitch like 3, like this yeast, then champagne yeast, and then in the end, you're like, what am I even tasting? So I'm hoping, as easy as this was to keep it all grain to get to the numbers, frosty only, get us all the way. Look at Frosty go.
Also, here's a huge vote for brewing with friends and sharing the collaboration through the brew day as well as the cleaning.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you guys.
You guys are good people.
you.
It's a good people.
I'm empty. Bad luck.
it's all right.
Krampus will
We'll
get me. Shout out Imperial Yeast for sending us the Frosty and all the technical advice. Shout out Drew Beecham for his many years of experience. Shout out Northern Brewer for putting up a big old cart, Santa's sleigh full of malt sacks and hops and sugars that we did and didn't use.
Thank you.
And for putting
Thank
up
you.
the space. We weren't doing this at my house. I don't think we were doing it at anybody's house outside
outside.
today.
It's
No.
cold outside.
Yeah. All right. Till the next 12 year of Christmas.
Cheers.
Cheers.